Okay, so as I was saying for the recording, okay, reading strategies are important, and a willingness to take your time with your reading is going to serve you well in this class and in your other college classes. Okay, all right, so let's practice some of these strategies with Twitchell. That's the first reading assignment that you guys had. And I don't know how that went for you, but a lot of times students find, darn it, I keep trying to move my window around and it keeps wanting to minimize, which I don't want it to do. Just want to move it up. All right, oh well, that'll all be on the recording. Oh well. Okay, a lot of students have difficulty with this text, and for good reason. It's a difficult text, okay, as a lot of these will be. Some of them will be thicker or more dense than others, but Twitchell is pretty dense, okay, and by that I don't mean stupid. I just mean there's a lot going on here, and a lot of stuff that people probably don't already know, okay? But this text is about American consumerism. And one of the strategies for previewing and predicting, right, is to take a look at these before you read questions, right? Because the before you read questions are designed on purpose to help activate your prior knowledge about the topic. And the topic of this article and the other 4 that you will have read by the time we're done for Essay 1 is American consumerism. They're all about that topic. They're all making arguments about that topic. Is it good? Is it bad? Are its effects mostly positive on our culture, or are they mostly negative? Twitchell says they're mostly positive, right? Although that's really hard to tell. It's hard to tell right off the bat what his argument is about American consumerism. All right, but reading this article commentary as a previewing strategy can be helpful to you in figuring out what it is the author is trying to say about the topic. So you preview the text to find out what the topic's generally about, and read any commentary or introduction that's given to you. And if you had read this, you would know that Twitchell thinks that in many ways, American consumerism is a positive force in our society, that the way we consume things is good. It's good for us. And then he makes an argument about that, okay? Here it says that consumers feel emancipated and powerful, all right? Emancipated means we feel free, okay? Flood, as you guys probably know because you read Flood already, totally disagrees. He takes the exact opposite viewpoint to Twitchell's about American consumerism. He thinks American consumerism is enslaving and manipulative, right? His article is called The Manipulation of Desire or something like that, that our desires are not natural at all, that we're being manipulated, and it's bad for us, okay? But Twitchell thinks that it's good, all right? So, and we got that from previewing the text, okay, from looking at the before you read questions, which are given here, and which you'll be given for Kilborn and Derkashani and Bloom, the next 3 texts you need to read. All right, and then you start to read the text. You start to just read it and read through it. And, you know, take note of the things that are unclear to you, the things that are confusing. All right, and then try as you're reading to resolve those areas of confusion. Let's start with this first sentence of Twitchell, which is totally confusing, right? To most people, this is going to be confusing. When Twitchell says, of all the strange beasts that have come slouching into the 20th century, none has been more misunderstood, more criticized, and more important than materialism. Okay, so probably the only sentence that an English 1A student who is not a literature student is going to understand from the only word, excuse me, an English 1A student who's not also a literature student is going to understand from that sentence is this one, materialism, right? And you'll understand that because you were asked to define that above. What is materialism? But all of the rest of this stuff is incomprehensible, right? I understand it because I was a literature major, right? I majored in English and literature as an undergraduate and then in graduate school. So I know that this is a literary illusion, all right, that the English professor Twitchell is making to a poem from the British Romantic period of poetry, one that I spent a lot of time studying. There's a book on my bookshelf all about it, okay? The British Romantics. So this particular poem is Yeats, right here, of all the strange beats that have come slouching into the 20th century. So I would write that in the margin. I would say, oh, this is an allusion to Yeats, but I still don't quite get why he's making it. How does this allusion to Yeats relate to materialism? Okay, so then I start to think about it, and I think about that poem, and I could even look that poem up and read it, okay? If I was an English 1A student, I would probably want to Google this sentence. Let's see what happens when I Google this sentence. Look how fast this is. All right, there it is. There's the poem. The Second Coming by Yeats, right? And then I can go to Wikipedia, everybody's favorite, and I can read all about the poem, okay? The poem is called The Second Coming. What's the first coming, you guys? First coming of what? The second coming is a reference to the second coming of Jesus Christ, right? The belief among Christians in the Western tradition that Christ is going to come back. Christ came once and he's going to come again, right? And what is Christ like? What are some characteristics that Jesus Christ has? Even if you guys aren't Christians, right? Because you have been brought up in Western civilization, most of you, right? I'm assuming, but most of you at least have a passing familiarity with Christian ideology, right? And what was that guy like? What characteristics did Christ have? Is anybody typing chat at me? You can type in chat. You can unmute yourselves and speak. You can raise your hand. Nobody knows?
He turned water into wine.
Okay, that's one thing Christ did, definitely.
And he cured the sick.
Okay, good. And why did he do those things? Why did Christ turn water into wine and cure the sick? What was it about him that motivated him to do those things? So when I'm asking you about characteristics, I'm asking you, what kind of person was Christ? What kind of figure? If you don't believe Christ really existed, okay, then what kind of figure is Christ presented as? What kind of person or figure?
He was a messenger.
A messenger from whom?
From God.
Yeah, and what did God want Christ to do?
He wanted to free his people.
Free his people. And what kind of messages was Christ delivering to people?
I don't know. Sorry, that's all I got.
What are some Christian values, you guys? What do Christians believe in?
Common sense.
Do Christians believe in common sense?
Yeah, it's pretty much common sense and decency, like being a decent human being.
Here we go. There we go. Now we're getting more at it, right? Christ was all about the brotherhood of man, right? That we need to treat each other as if we're brothers. He wanted to cure the sick because he was benevolent, right? His purpose was to deliver a message of brotherhood to people, right? And to treat each other with charity, right? To be charitable towards one another, to be tolerant towards one another, to be forgiving towards one another, right? Guys, I'm not a Christian and I know this stuff. I'm a heathen, okay? I kind of believe there must be a God, but I don't have a specific idea of what that is like. All right, that's where I'm at with my faith. But I understand it because I'm a product of this culture and it's everywhere around us. So much so that we don't, we're not consciously aware of it. Okay, so Yeats's poem, The Second Coming, is an allusion to Christian ideology. But let's take a look at Yeats. Is the poem here? Okay, let me go back and find the poem. Wikipedia. All right, here we go. The Poetry Foundation, one of my favorites. You can see that it's purple because I go there a lot. Okay, so this is the poem. And this is the line from the poem that Twitchell is quoting. He kind of paraphrases it. He changes it a little bit. Okay, but this second coming doesn't sound good at all. It doesn't sound charitable, right? It doesn't sound like it's about the brotherhood of man. Okay, this second coming is a rough beast, right? With a shape with a lion body and the head of a man. That's terrifying. and a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun. Christ was all about pity, right? He was all about caring about people, right? But this second coming is not Christ-like at all. This second coming is pitiless, without pity, right? Okay, and it troubles the speaker's sight in the poem. The speaker is troubled by this second coming. And up here he says, mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed in everywhere. Oh my God, I shouldn't be reading this poem right now. I'm already in a bad space. Yeah, Yeats was prophetic. Everything he predicted back in the 1800s is coming to pass in 2020. Oh my God, I have to go back to bed. Okay, anyways, Twitchell is referencing this poem on purpose to talk about American consumerism, right? He's saying that we have exchanged our faith in Christ for faith in consumerism, okay? And that sounds bad, doesn't it? But Twitchell says it's great. He says it's not a problem. He says, while materialism may be the most shallow of our 20th century various isms, it has ultimately triumphed. What does shallow mean? Is shallow good, you guys?
No.
So, right, if I call someone shallow, or if we call someone shallow, right, we're saying they're the opposite of deep. They're not very good, right? They're not very smart. They don't care about things that matter, right? And from the definitions that you guys got of materialism is kind of shallow, right? It doesn't care about the important things. It cares about consuming stuff, right? So Twitchell is admitting that materialism is shallow, but he's saying it's winning. Okay, of all the things that we do, it's the one that's triumphing. And not just in the US, but everywhere. He says elsewhere in this article that emerging nations, they're trying to be like us. They're trying to be like the US in the ways in which we consume. They want to have all the stuff we have. Okay? All right, so that took a long time, didn't it? And we're all only on page 1. Right? So there's a lot going on here. And this is the reading process. This is what it involves for this stuff. Okay? All right, let's move on to take a look at the questions, the before you read questions. Let's back up just a little bit and talk about these as a group. These are the same questions that you guys submitted answers to in Canvas. All right, but I'd like us to discuss them together. So what about this first thing? Okay, tell me what kinds of things you or people you know buy and why. Why do they consume the way they do? And you guys can unmute yourselves and speak, or you can type your responses into chat. You can raise your hands if you want to speak. Okay, this is easy. This isn't about the reading. This is about activating our prior knowledge. This is about your own observations and your own experiences of consumer culture.
My partner actually bought me this thing that I will show on the screen, but it is a little bit embarrassing.
Let's see. Let me see if I can see you. Oh, nice. Okay. What's that from, you guys? Everybody, what's that from?
It's not embarrassing. That's a right.
Awesome. Tyler thinks that's awesome. What is it, Tyler?
You can't take it off now, dude. What are you doing?
That's right.
Rule.
It's really hot in there.
And you got to
You
save
took it
the
off.
little guy.
Can't put it back on now.
Save baby Yoda. You must save him. Okay. But, okay. So, Red, that's a great example because that's an example of one of the arguments that Twitchell makes about objects having meaning, right? Twitchell says the way we consume isn't shallow, right? It's not superficial, right? It isn't even really just about the things themselves. It's about what those things mean, right? And the Mandalorian means something to people. Okay, so I'm not going to ask how much that was, Red.
It was, we got it at like discount price on Amazon, so it's good.
All right, it looks pretty serious. It looks like a serious piece of equipment. Like it's really made out of that stuff. I can't remember what the stuff is because I'm not that much of a fan.
It's Beskar.
There it is. I knew you knew.
Yeah, me and my
Right.
partner like to watch Star Wars and stuff.
Me too. This is a Star Wars family. Okay, so how much time and money do you guys think you or people you know spend shopping?
I've spent like $400 in one sitting, like shopping around before.
Yeah, and how much time did you spend doing that, Nicole? Because time is money, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of depends. It can either sometimes I only last like 2 hours, or it can be like an all-day thing.
Yeah. Do you guys find yourself shopping on the internet when you're supposed to be doing your schoolwork?
You can window shop.
Yes.
No.
Just look at things.
Yeah, you kind of have
Just
a
put it in
window
your
open on
cart.
the side. Thanks for confessing. You know, but I take breaks. I take breaks from the work that I'm doing grading or making stuff in Canvas to shop, right? My latest acquisition was a purse that I bought, okay? And it couldn't just be any purse. It had to be a special purse. And because of my income, it had to be a special purse at the right price, right? So that took me months of shopping to find the right purse, right? So I ended up getting a Dooney and Burke purse. I don't know, ladies, if you know that brand. It's kind of an old lady brand. It's not like Gucci or Louis Vuitton, right? Oh, there it is. Does yours have the duck on it?
Yeah.
Got the duck.
This was my mom's back in the 80s.
There we go. See, I have ones from the 80s too. But that's a good ass purse, isn't it? Oops, I cussed in Zoom. I'll have to edit that out. That's a
Yeah,
solid
it's super
purse.
sturdy, and it's not
Yeah.
even like the leather's not peeling or anything.
There we go. See, so quality, right? That's the excuse I give myself for why I had to have a $400 purse, right? When I could have had a vinyl one for 40, but I tell myself, oh, the $400 one will last longer, right? And it kind of does, but then I see another one I want. And then I'm not happy with the one I just bought 6 months ago anymore. I got to have the new one. That's how it works. That's how consumerism works, right? Is it just me? Yeah, probably. It's probably just me. You
Well, it also
guys,
depends on how you take care of stuff.
that's true. That's true. If you take good care of it, if you oil it and stuff, and don't bang it around, okay, don't keep it on the floor. All right, but we spend a lot of time doing that, don't we? And a lot of money. I see you. I end up, she doesn't have to go away. That's par for the course, you guys. We got kids, right? And they're awesome. And maybe, maybe she's interested in consumerism, all right? But we spend a lot of time buying things and shopping for things because it gives us pleasure to do so. And that's part of Twitchell's argument. All right, but what about debt? I did not spend $400 for my purse. That's why it took me so long to find it, because my income would not support that. But do you guys have debt? Do you know people who do?
Emotional debt.
Oh,
Ka-chow.
yeah, me too. What about consumer debt? Do you have debt on credit cards?
I'm pretty sure everybody has at least one or two debts, like have credit cards because they're trying to build their credit, housing, people buy houses, car loans.
Uh-huh.
It just goes on.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, some
Actually,
of those
I'm
things.
free of debt. I do this little special thing called tax evasion.
Oh, you shouldn't be confessing that on Zoom when this is being recorded. We'll just pretend we don't know who that is, right, guys? Because you never know
Just
who's
take it out of the
listening.
conversation.
You never know who's listening these days. It could be the NSA in here listening to our conversation. Okay, but as people have been chatting and I couldn't see my chat, but now I can because I made my other window smaller. Okay, yeah, so manga, games, 60 to 80 bucks a month. Okay, diapers, we need those, right? We need those. Okay. All right. Your mom is in debt. Okay, David. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see. Health insurance we need, right? So consumer debt is specifically debt that you acquire from buying commodities that you don't necessarily need. Okay? And that are beyond your capacity to afford. So you got to put it on the credit card. All right. So that's what we're talking about. Somebody said shoes, baby clothes we need, right? The pet's got to go to the vet. Okay. All right. Let's see. What else? Anything? Electronics. Someone said housing, food, and clothes. Those are things we need, right? We need those things. Now, about clothes, okay? Do you guys buy clothes, only the clothes you need? Tyler's nodding his head yes. Do you guys buy only the clothes you need?
Name brand's too expensive.
What's that, Tyler?
Name brand is too expensive.
Yeah.
Every now and then.
I go to the local gutter and I just fish them out.
Okay. Good. Good. What about the rest of you? Okay, usually when I'm in class with people, I'll zero in on what they're wearing, right? And I'll ask them about their gear, their shoes with the Nike swoosh on them, right? Why not just regular sneakers?
Spoil myself.
Okay, all right. So once in a while, that's okay, right? Or at least we've convinced ourselves that it is. But take a look at this one. Okay, and let me make my screen big again. All right. If you had the option to buy the generic of something, the non-branded version of a product versus the branded version of a product, which would you buy and why?
Whichever is most comfortable.
Really? So it's all
Yeah.
about the function of it.
I feel like, yeah, if it's a comfortable pair of shoes, then go with it regardless of the brand. You know,
Okay,
if
so
you
you'll
have to
go
wear
down to
those.
pay less. Sorry, Tyler. So you'll go down to pay less and just buy whatever's comfortable and not worry about the branding of the
Yep.
shoes? Okay,
As
what
long as it
about the
fits
rest?
in.
Yeah. What about the rest of you?
I only get what I need. Like I only have one pair of boots that I wear, and they're from like 1976. So yeah.
You guys are all very frugal, I guess, right? And I'm the
It
only
just
one.
depends on the item.
Depends. Okay, so Nicole, give me an example of an item you would buy the brand name of versus the generic.
Such as like my AirPods and like my MacBook, because I use it for school and I needed
Okay.
a new computer rather than going like getting a cheap computer.
Okay.
Or
So,
like Birkenstocks, like you can get the cheaper one, but it just wears out faster rather than getting like the real Birkenstocks and that lasts for like 10 years.
there's my Berkeys. Right? True to stereotype, right? English teachers wear Birkenstocks. And I'm among them.
Hey, if it's comfortable, right?
Comfortable
You like them?
and $150, right? Why didn't I just buy a cheap pair of plastic slides, which is what I needed. I needed the slides, right? But I'm interested in, Nicole, what you were saying about your Apple products, your AirPods, right? And
Yeah.
your Mac, right? I'm on a Dell right now, which is a good machine. It's not as expensive as a Mac, right? So we got to admit, who's got an iPhone? Put your hand up if you've got an iPhone. There we go. All right. And you guys are all going to tell me, Edgar's waving his hand. You guys are all going to tell me that you have the iPhone because it's better than the Android device, right? Yeah, Tyler.
Yep, it is.
Okay, Nicole. Nicole insists that it's better.
Better camera quality.
Okay. Right. So I bought the
I
So
don't
they
need that
say.
good camera quality because I'm like ugly as hell. So you know it cancels out.
There it is. So the iPhone looks cooler. There we go. Now we're getting a little closer to the truth here, right? The Apple
Androids don't
brand.
break as easy.
Oh, really? Huh.
But why wouldn't
Yep.
you take care of your phone better than dropping it?
That's
Just
a
don't
good
drop
reason.
it.
That's good. Here's my.
So who's had both? Who's had Android devices and an iPhone? Okay, Red raised his hand, Angel raised his hand. Okay, and do you guys agree, Red and Angel, and anyone else, that the iPhone is better than the Android device?
No.
Not no, not really. Like I could settle for either, but I kind of like the Samsung more because it is more durable, and I'm prone to doing stupid things. And with my profession, working with like animals and horses, uh, I'd rather have an Android because it's less likely to explode like on
Okay,
impact if I ever
those
like take a fall.
those are very practical reasons. Okay, but I'm going to put something out there and you guys can shake your heads no, or you can think to yourself, no, not me. Okay, but I'm going to generalize and I'm going to say that people generally prefer Apple products more because of the design and because of the status that goes with them than because of the functionality of the product. In fact, for a long time, I had an Android device. I have an iPhone now. I had an Android device because the iPhones were terrible at phone calls. My sister is an Apple devotee. She will not, she's Apple all the way, right? And I would try to talk to her and the call would constantly be dropping. Like, this is terrible. I can't have a conversation with you. All right. And my husband has a Samsung device and his phone takes better pictures than mine. My iPhone 11 Pro. It takes better pictures. So I had to download a special photo app for my iPhone 11 Pro so I could capture the apocalyptic orange sky from a couple days ago because my iPhone wasn't, the iPhone app wasn't getting it. Okay, so I'm just gonna put that out there and you guys can grapple with, okay, the brand versus generic, that people generally choose a brand name of something, okay, over a generic name of something. And it's different for different things. But the reason they make those choices, the why, is because of status. Okay, it's because of what those things represent to others about you. So that when you pull out your iPhone, people are like, oh, okay, all right. Or when you rock your Nikes, people are like, oh, okay. Or when I carry my Dooney and Burke around, I make sure the duck is facing out so that people can see it, right? Because I want them to know I don't just have any bag, right? So I don't know. Maybe you guys are immune to that, but would you at least agree that that's true of a lot of people? That that's why they make the choice of brand over generic?
That's very true. I feel like most people, they like to have the nicer things. That's not a bad thing, but you know, that's how people are nowadays. They want to see something that looks cool.
Yeah, Damien's got his thumbs up, right? And it's because what the thing represents and how it represents you to others, okay? And there's a value in that. You can maybe put a price on that. Maybe that's worth something to you. Twitchell would argue it is. He would argue that's not shallow, okay? He would argue that because the items that we consume have meaning for us, right? That's not shallow. They represent something more than just the thing itself, and that's not bad. Okay, let's talk about this one now. What's the definition you guys have of materialism? Is it a bad thing to be materialistic? What does materialism mean? What does it mean to be materialistic? Did you guys Google that?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And what's the definition you came up with?
Oh, my own definition was that materialism is like, it's when a person thinks highly of object possessions than they do anything else.
Yeah, so it's not simply material. Someone who is materialistic is not someone who simply likes things, right? Someone who's materialistic is someone who cares more about things than perhaps, you know, other things they should care more about. They care more about concrete products than they do about, let's say, relationships or people, right? The definition that you get when you Google it, as Emilio just did, right, is you choose material items over more spiritual concerns, right? And I would just add to that a concern for other people or a concern for your relationships, right? Or a concern for being a good person, right? You care more about having and acquiring stuff than you do about those other things. That's what it means to be materialistic. Okay, so based on that shared definition, do you guys think that being materialistic is bad? What do you guys think?
I think it depends.
I feel that anything in moderation or anything in excess is a bad thing, you know? So if you place materials higher than values, or you put more energy into that, then it's going to be a bad thing, you know. If
Right.
you put more energy into spirituality, you're going to lose sight of things that are going on around you that aren't involved in that spiritual way of thinking.
Okay, so whether or not the way we consume is good or bad depends on how much energy we put into it, how much we care about it, right? Versus other things, right? But we just said that materialism is an over concern with things, which means you're more concerned with stuff than you are with perhaps other things that you should be concerned about instead. That's what it means to be materialistic. So given that definition, is materialism bad? What do you guys think?
No.
Yeah, I
That should be like a
understand.
yes and a no question.
Why?
Yeah, it's
I think it's a little bit of both, because you should be happy that you do have the stuff that you do have, and it is important, but I think at the end of the day, like, your safety and other people's lives do matter the most.
Okay. So once again, materialism means, right, that things matter more to you. That's what it means. We agreed, right? So I'm going to ask you again, is materialism bad?
I'm still neutral with it. But like reading from the two articles, I think one of them mentions in the end how well, no, okay, it was in Flood's article, the part about the Canadian woman who decided to take a leave from her profession to have a more domestic life to raise her kid. It focuses on the fact that like she thinks that living in a single family and earning $37,000 is equivalent to poverty. And I actually looked it up at the time in the year 2000 in Canada, 1999 and 2000, the average single family income was 30,000, like flat, like 27,000 to 30,000. So they were like living higher than the average. Uh, but anyway, in the article, it states that this woman, like settling down temporarily, she doesn't want to settle down because like living that type of domestic life isn't enough for her because her husband isn't earning enough for her to have like an ideal lifestyle for herself. So in that aspect, materialism is bad because it leads you to uh, becoming greedy and I guess gluttonous. But at the same time, materialism is good because uh, like what David said about in moderation, like you have to be spiritual in moderation, materialistic in moderation. That there is a connection between material and spiritual. Like there are material objects that hold spiritual value, and if
Okay.
and that's what makes some objects more, like I guess you can hold some objects higher than I guess some people.
Okay, good. So once again, you guys, and in the chat too, everybody's saying in moderation, it's not bad. Damien says it's both. Edgar just comes out and says, no, it's not bad at all. And Emilio says, no, as long as it's under check, right? But once again, materialistic means it's not. Materialistic means it's not under check. It's not in moderation. It's not balanced with the other concerns that you should be having, that you care more about stuff than you do about people. Okay, but I understand why we're having such a hard time, right? Saying that materialism is bad because we all participate in it, right? And we don't like to think of ourselves as bad people, and we aren't bad people, right? Perhaps the way or the amount that we consume is bad. And you're right, Red, to bring up Flood. Flood says, we're in trouble, folks. We're in a lot of trouble, right? And that reference to Flood you just made, he's talking about the hyperinflation of the concept of enough, that our idea of what is enough has shifted, right? And part of what makes it shift is what we're surrounded by. And we're surrounded by consumerism and consumer messages. We're being bombarded all the time by ads and other messages. TV shows, Kilburn will talk about this. She'll talk about the stuff we see on TV, the stuff we see on the internet, the stuff we see in movies, right? It's all pushing us to consume and to care about consuming, okay? But, you know, you guys are right to hedge also, okay? Because Twitchell says there's meaning in the things that we consume, and he definitely doesn't think it's bad, okay? All right, how are we doing on time? Let me check my time here. I'm gonna move my windows around again so I can see my own screen. Okay, I wanna go here. All right, let's see, when is this meeting over, you guys? I can never remember how long these things are supposed to last.
Like 2:30?
2:30?
2:25, something like that.
Okay, here we go, here we go. Zoom class meeting, 11:05. Is this us? Oh no, that's English too. Let me close that. I'm confusing myself. Okay. All right. So let me just work through the questions for analysis for Twitchell with you a little bit. And we won't get all the way through these this time. Well, this has gotten really small now. Okay. Let me make it bigger. There we go. That's better. Okay. So the questions for analysis that you guys answered. Let me move my window again. Are asking you to think critically about this text and show that you understood its main points, right? Which, as I said before, you need in order to be able to use these ideas later in an essay. That's the purpose you have for reading now, is to understand this text so you can make reference to it later to support an argument that you want to make about this topic, about American consumerism in your essay. So Twitchell, one of his arguments for why consumerism is good is that it's potent, right? It's potent. That means it's powerful, right? What does Twitchell say is powerful? And why? What makes it powerful?
The ability to buy what you want when you want it.
Okay, right? And people like that, right? He says, go ahead, Ren.
in the article, he states that consumerism has proved potent because humans just love things.
I love things. That's right. We love things, right? And we're kind of built for that, the way our brains work and the way our brains respond to hormones, especially dopamine and endorphins, right? The pleasure hormones, which are generated when we shop, right? We get that little thrill of having something new that we really enjoy, right? And so that can become a very compelling drive that we have to repeat that feeling or to keep that feeling going, right? We love stuff, okay? And he says that I've marked up my text. Look at my text, you guys. Can you see that? It's all marked up. It's backwards to you, but that's what yours should look like too. So he says that on the top of page 2, right? Let's take a look at that. Top of page 2, right here. Okay. He says, it's proved potent because human beings love things. And then he goes on to, he says, often these objects don't have any observable use. We want them anyway, even though we can't really use them. I had a student in my previous class who said that his fiance has tons of makeup that she never uses. And she just keeps buying new makeup and she doesn't use it. But I bet she's really happy to have it, right? I bet she likes to look at it, right? And it sparkles and it's pretty colors and she gets pleasure from that, right? Okay. All right, let me go back to the questions. We love stuff. And then David said, right? It gives us freedom, right? That's this one right here. Oh, strictures of social class. We haven't talked about this one yet. But this one right here, it's liberating, right? To just buy whatever you want whenever you want it. That's a kind of freedom. That one kind of relates to this question here, the relationship between democracy and consumerism that the author identifies. Okay? Where if you go to the bottom of page 2, there's page 3 right here. If you want to understand the potency of American consumer culture, ask any group of teenagers what democracy means to them, right? It's the right to buy anything you want. Freedom's just another word for lots of things to buy. Now that's a reference to an old 60s song, okay? By, let's see, who's the singer? I can't remember, my memory's failing me. But the lyric goes, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Anybody know that song? Never mind. It's an old folk song from the 60s. I'm old, sorry. Okay, but I get that reference. Freedom's just another word for lots of things to buy, right? And that is democracy in action, according to Twitchell. Democracy just means power to the people. That's what it means. The word democracy is from the Greek. Demo means people. This means power. Okay, what do you got, Tyler? Is that your iPhone? No, what are you showing us?
No, you didn't
dog
see.
food.
My dog was trying to get at me when we were doing the thing, and I tilted
Oh,
my
okay.
eyes.
That's fine.
You
Don't worry
wanna see
about
my
it.
dog?
That's fine.
It's a
Red,
cute
leave
dog
me alone.
now.
Leave me alone, Red.
If you guys
Trying
have
to
to
work.
dip out, that's fine.
I just like dogs. I'm sorry.
I do too.
All right. So that's this one. All right. What about this one right here? According to Twitchell, consumption is liberating and it's empowering, he says too. Right? Let's take a look at where he discusses that. Okay. I'm looking at my annotations to help find the spot in the text where he talks about that. Okay, so on page 3, I'm going to go up there to page 3 and show you that passage. All right, he says, we've not grown weaker, and Flood disagrees with Twitchell on this particular point. Okay, Flood thinks that the way we consume has weakened us, has made us soft and cancerous and doomed, Flood says, right? But Twitchell says, no, we're not weaker, right? We're stronger. Okay, we've proved inordinately powerful. Okay, we've not turned into savages because of the way we've consumed. All right. Let's see, where else does he talk about this? Oh, okay, on page 4, let me take you there to 4. Okay. This passage here, why has the consumer so often been depicted by people like me as powerless? All right, go into any cultural studies course. This is what I studied in graduate school, cultural studies, right? Marxism, right? The consumer is just a dupe. The consumer is just being manipulated, right? By business, okay? Just doing what corporations tell them to do. They don't have a mind of their own. They don't have any power, right? But then Twitchell argues against that idea and says, no, consumers are powerful. And how are they powerful? They're powerful because they get to decide what the price is for things. Oh my God, she has red hair. That's awesome. Okay. Consumers get to decide what the price is. Think about it, you guys. Right? Do you guys remember when the PlayStation 4 first came out? Sony PlayStation 4? No? Some of my media examples are kind of old. Okay, but I'll tell you, when the PlayStation 4 first came out, it was $600. And people said, we're not going to pay that. I like my PlayStation 3, you know? No, we're not going to pay that. So people didn't buy it. They didn't buy it. And Sony ended up having to drop the price because nobody would buy it at that price. So that's what Twitchell's talking about here when he talks about empowerment, that the consumer is empowered, right? The consumer is a market disciplinarian. It's not the market that's in charge, it's consumers. And they exercise discipline on the market. They tell the market what they're willing to pay. And then the market has to adjust, okay? But here Twitchell isn't acknowledging that there's any manipulation going on at all, right? He's not acknowledging what I know about myself, that when the iPhone 12 comes out, I'm gonna want it, even though I don't need it, okay? And I might be willing to pay, you know, $600 for it, okay? Because they're gonna sell it to me. They're gonna manipulate me into wanting it, okay? All right, let's see. All right, so we'll continue talking about some of these things, but each one of these questions points to a main idea in the text, okay? That hopefully you were able to identify answers to these questions so that you can use these things later, okay? To construct an essay argument on this topic, all righty? Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about this now and move on to other things. Because I sense a lot of you are drifting. And that's understandable, it's late. Okay, so what I wanna talk to you about now is this, the discussion leader assignment that you guys had. So I'm gonna go there. Oh, I already opened it earlier. And this is that assignment. And in this assignment, there's a description, okay? And there's a link here to using something called collaborations in Canvas, which I'll explain more in a minute. And then here's a link to the Google Doc, which I have to fix because I messed up. But I'll show it to you. Okay, so I'm gonna make another one and I'm gonna send out an announcement about that with a link to it, asking people to sign up. Because I think a lot of these students are in different classes. Okay, so I have 2 English 1A classes and I only made 1 document, so that won't work. I have to fix this. All right, I think most of these people are my earlier class. Okay, I haven't quite memorized who's in what class yet, but I think that's the case. So I'm gonna make another one for you guys, all right? And then what you do is you go to this assignment and you click on this link, right? Or rather, I'll put another link in here for you guys. I'll specify this one is for my earlier section, and then I'll make another one for 5030, which you guys can click on. And then you click on it and it'll take you to an empty document like this, which you can then type into and sign up to be discussion leader. All right, but step 1 is looking at the articles. So this is the one we were just talking about, 2 Cheers for Materialism. This is Flood, which you guys should have read already as well. And then these are the next 3. And what you can do is you can open and preview and skim them, okay, and make a decision about which ones you want to lead a small group discussion about. Okay, so once you sign up, your job is going to be to work with the 5 other people who signed up. So for example, all of these people will work together to come up with a set of questions, at least 3 no more than 5 questions to lead a small group of the other students in the class in a discussion of this text. In this case, it's flood, manufacturing desire. Okay, so each of these people will work together in collaboration on a Google Doc, which I will assign to you. I'll create the Google Doc and you'll get an invitation in your email to access it. And then once you get into the Google Doc, your job as a leader will be to post at least 1 question. And then everybody else will discuss that question and make suggestions using the Google Doc commenting tools about maybe revisions that should be made to that question, right? Or additional questions that should be posed instead. And then in the end of that collaboration, if you guys have decided on at least 3, no more than 5 questions, you'll nominate 1 person in the group to post those questions that you all developed together in a Canvas discussion forum for Essay 1. All right? And I know I've just put a lot out there, but it'll make sense once you get in there and do it. All right? And I want you to get in there early because the first facilitation is going to be on the 18th, next week. All right? So if you sign up for these 2 texts, Flood and Kilborn, we're going to do both of them on the 18th. Okay? I will make the document for you right away. And then you'll get in there and start developing the questions. That might take a few days because you'll probably be wanting to work on them asynchronously at different times. But what that means is you need to post your question and then you need to pop in and out of the document to check on what other work has been done in that document and contribute some more to the development of the questions. Okay, does that generally make sense, you guys?
Sounds good.
You have, go ahead.
Sounds good.
Okay. Do you guys, so David is asking how I pick a group. And Edgar says, so we'll get an email. We're going to be put in a group automatically. No, you're going to sign up for the group.
You're gonna assign me a group?
No, you'll choose.
Okay.
The first step is for you to choose your group. Well, actually, the first step is for you to choose the text that you want to work on. Okay. Then you go into this document and sign up for that text. And then once everybody's done that, I will take that information and make groups in Canvas. And then I will create a Google document. And then everybody who signed up for that text will have access to that document. Does that make sense? You guys? So yes, Edgar, you're all choosing the text. Okay, Pablo says, yeah. Everybody else good? David says, thanks, you're welcome. Yeah, so each of these people is in a leader group and they're gonna work together to develop the questions. Okay, and I'll set all of that up. Once you sign up for your group, I'll set it up. Okay, and I need to make a new document because I screwed up and only made 1. When I need to make 2. So I'll fix that as soon as I say goodbye to you guys. Does that sound good? Any questions still? Oop, I lost my chat. Oops. Yeah? Okay, all right then. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and let you go and fix my mistake. All right, and give you guys a chance to sign up, all righty? I'll send out an announcement. So watch your email for an announcement coming from me to you guys, all right? All right, see you guys. Have a good weekend. Stay positive.
Later,
You
everybody.
too. Everyone stay safe.
Bye.
Press
Likewise.
like-
Bye.
Sure. See ya, ka.
Bye.